Timo hits 3 for 3, Lukaku hits his century, and Christensen puts his mark on Denmark. See what I did there? The international break is done and dusted, and we are now getting back to the seriousness of the Premier League. So, stick around. Hello my friends and welcome back to the Blue Pride of London. I'm your host Nathan and it's an absolute joy to have all of you here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, if you are new and you've not yet subscribed to the channel, it would mean so much to me if you would consider hitting the subscribe button just down there. And if you want to stay up to date, hitting the bell also. At any point you enjoyed this video, it would help the channel so much if you would in fact hit the thumbs up button as well. But with the admin out of the way, let's quickly move on to what this video is about. So I'm going to cover two things, actually. We will get into a match preview against Aston Villa on Saturday afternoon. But first off, I want to talk about what's going on with the Brazilian FA. Now, we're saying that this is going to affect Chelsea, but is it really going to affect it as much as it's probably going to affect other teams in the Premier League? But the Brazilian FA has turned around to FIFA to try to ban any Premier League players who have travelled with the Brazilian national team to sort of be either isolated or not able to play because of COVID restrictions that happened in the country. Don't know if you saw it, but the game between Brazil and Argentina was stopped after about 5 minutes because there was an issue about sort of some players coming over from the UK not meeting the quarantine sort of regulations, and also when they sort of go back to, in fact, England and to represent their countries. So what does that mean? For Chelsea, it means Thiago Silva would potentially not be up and available for this game against Aston Villa, which, considering he's not really featured that much within our team going forward this season so far, it probably isn't much of a headache. But there is a sort of big but when it comes to that. But before I get on to that but, how many times can I say but? It might have, in fact, repercussions going on with the other Premier League teams, such as Liverpool, Man City and Manchester United. So for some of their Brazilian-based or Brazilian players not being available, not only for the weekend's game, but for the Champions League games coming in for next season, next week as well. So, what does that sort of mean for Thiago Silva? So if Thiago Silva sits out for this weekend's game, it's not really much of a biggie in the normal run of things. But when we go and have a look at my sort of team prediction, and I've mixed it up a little bit here, considering that Reece James has been suspended because he got that red card against Liverpool, he's not available for this game. So that means our defences is going to have to be sort of rejiggled a little bit. I think in normal circumstances, it probably wouldn't mean that much. We'll still have the same back line of Reece James, Azpilicueta, Christensen, Rudiger and Alonso. But with the fact that we can't have Reece James in that back line, does that mean Azpilicueta now needs to come over to the right and we don't have a natural defender to sort of sit in that middle? Yes, we've got like Sarr, who is training with the first team, and the guy from Holland as well. I can't remember his name. Well, I can, but I can't quite pronounce it yet. I've not heard it enough times to sort of sit in that. And maybe Trevor Chalobah could also sit in that as well. But this is an awful lot of ifs and buts and maybes. But before we go into my actual team prediction, let's have a little chat about Aston Villa so far this season. So what can we say about Aston Villa going into this game? Probably not much. They have, in fact, lost their captain, their talisman, their sort of star player. He obviously is the £100 million British player going over to Man City, Jack Grealish. So what are they looking at the moment? Now, they have done some seriously great business going into last summer, with Danny Ings coming in as a complete sort of left field type of signing. I don't think anybody expected that. And yeah, Danny has in fact hit the ground running. He scored a sensational goal, I think in the first, maybe second game. But as Aston Villa go, they are quite a mediocre team. Now, I say that without trying to disrespect. As most top 6 teams, you do go into the Aston Villa game thinking you're going to win. But if you remember the last game of last season, we lost, and we lost quite convincingly, actually. Was that because Aston Villa played better than us? Maybe. Was it because Aston Villa wanted it more? Definitely. Has that got something to do with the fact that a lot of Chelsea players had their eye on the following weekend in the Champions League final? Most definitely. And end of the road, we managed to get top four by the skin of our teeth because of what the Tottenham result was. But, Aston Villa did in fact beat us last season on the last game of the season. So how do they feel going against Chelsea this time around? Yes, they have lost their main star player. Yes, they have sort of brought quite well within the transfer window, which is obviously just closed beginning of September. But then again, Chelsea is now a new blood of team. We have got the sensational striker in Lukaku up front. Our defence is playing sensationally well, hence, that display that we had against Liverpool. So I am still going to go into this game quite confident, even though I think there is definitely going to be a bit of a rejiggle within the team. And that seems like a really good segue to go on to what I predict the team could look like. So let's have a quick little look at that, shall we? So this is my team that I'm not going to say that I think will start against Aston Villa, but I sort of hope will start against Aston Villa. So going into the goalkeeper, we can't go any further than sort of Mendy. Mendy is our Premier League goalkeeper, unless he's had an injury that I've not yet heard about. He is definitely starting this game. But it gets interesting in defence. Like I said, Reece James is serving a suspension, so he is not available. So I would expect Azpilicueta to go off to that right-hand side. Now, usually you would expect the likes of Thiago Silva to slip into that vacant back three, but we don't have him. We probably don't have him available. And something that I did mention in the opening is that potentially if this ban goes ahead, then if we feature Thiago Silva within our team, we might in fact have to forfeit this game with a 3-0 sort of defeat for breaking these rules. So there's a high chance that Thiago Silva is not going to be available for this game. So what does that mean? Does that mean we bring in an untested player like Sarr, or do we bring Trevor Chalobah back into it? Now, I've decided against both of these things, and I'm going for a back four. So, of course, Christensen keeps his place. He has played sensational for Chelsea in the last 3 games and with Denmark. He has literally been an out-and-out star for Denmark in the international break just gone. And then obviously you've got Tony Rudiger, who is becoming really Mr. Reliable in that back sort of like line going forward. Now, in my left back position, I'm sort of hoping that maybe Ben Chilwell will get a nod over this one. Aston Villa is potentially one of our easiest games within this sort of like first 6-game run. And he's obviously had a bit of a rest break, and he hasn't sort of played a game since the Champions League final. So hopefully within this sort of like little time frame, he has managed to sort of go forward. Now, the reason why I've chosen him over Alonso, even though Alonso has also had a bit of a break and he has played sensational for Chelsea so far this season, if we are going to go for a back four, then we know what Alonso's strengths are. He is sensational at going up and down that wing, at attacking, at putting crosses in and being receiving of crosses. But his defensive game, we all know, isn't necessarily the best. So if we are going to go for a back four because we are missing that centre-back, then I think Ben Chilwell is probably the best possible choice in this particular game. Now, going into my midfield, I have got that central pivot of Jorginho and Kovacic. The reason why I've gone for these two is we are still hearing that there are problems with Kante. He still has muscle problems. He hasn't really played much for France over the international break, or maybe not even at all. So is he actually available for this game, starting this game? He probably will start on the bench like he has done in the previous games, but I don't know if he's going to be available. So I've gone for that particular duo in there. Yes, we have our new signing, Sal. I don't think we bought Sal as a potential first team starter. He is definitely sort of a backup, maybe to help with the amount of games that we are playing this season. Remember, we are fighting on 6 fronts into this season. So I think he is definitely a rotation player to sort of give other players a bit of a break every now and then, and maybe a bit of an impact sub. I've watched some videos of him sort of playing for his other teams, and he's a baller. He's an out-and-out, like he plans his tackles quite well. He's brilliant at sliding in, and he can break up the play, which is the reason why we brought him in. But we have the sort of the out-and-out, tried and tested, the best midfielders of that position, and I think that's what's going to happen just here. Just in front of these two guys, I have got the likes of Havertz, Mason Mount, and yes, I think it is now time for Timo Werner to sort of come out Like I said in my intro, he has hit 3 goals in 3 games for Germany during the international break. And for a player that you would sort of consider him from last season, this is a complete different player. He is in the goals. For him to play consecutive games for Germany and score consecutive games for Germany is brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. And I think it's now time for him and Lukaku, who I've also put up front, to start playing together. Now, will he play part of that attacking 3 midfield as he's playing up on the left, which we know he can do, and sort of like team up with Lukaku, who's going to be sort of the lone striker, or will he be part of a pairing? But I do think it is now time, after watching him play for Germany, and he has been brilliant. It's time for him to start playing up there with Lukaku and seeing what sort of pairing that is. And considering our coach is German, I'm pretty sure he's had a really big eye on the German national team during this break, that he has probably been very impressed in what he has seen. And then we've got Lukaku just up there by himself, as he always is and as he always will be, just muscling any defence going forward. So this is my team that I would like to see at one of these sort of like more mid-table, lesser table teams that we can go up against. So what would the score be? So the big thing that we always have with Chelsea fans and the Chelsea team is that once they come back from international break, we have a bit of a lull moment. It is always good to play Chelsea after the national break because our players have gone out everywhere. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we got really sort of like turned over by West Brom, it was after an international break. And the Chelsea players, the majority of them, they are travelling around Europe. They are travelling around the world to play for their countries. Christian Pulisic, who I'm not entirely sure how he's feeling right now. He came off with an injury, with an ankle injury after helping the USA win some vital games. So he has gone to America or Central America and he's flying back to potentially play for the Premier League. So that is the biggest problem when you support a big club full of internationals. I know Chelsea aren't the other team that sort of suffer this, but when you go up against a team that, like Aston Villa, who don't really have a lot of international players in their squad, I'm not saying that they don't have any before you start attacking me in the comments, but you know, that's one thing we sort of showed against West Brom. I do feel that that was a game after the international break and we got completely and utterly turned over by, you know, potential tired players who spent a lot of times on planes, players who have spent a lot of time sort of like having training where they're actually training to play rather than having a week off, a little bit of light training and then coming and playing a really, really big game. I also think with that West Brom game that a lot of the West Brom players didn't play a game of football for almost 11 days. So they were fresh, they were ready to fight, unlike a lot of Chelsea players who were sort of like, we've just come off playing some really, really tough internationals. So that is something we've got to sort of like bear in mind when we're coming into this game. It is after an international break. A lot of our players have sort of gone away and come back again after playing some tough games. I've watched all 3 of the England games, and even though they sort of look quite easy on paper, they were really tough games. The game against Poland was tough. There was a lot of running around. Mason Mount literally sort of covered the majority of that park, just running about a little bit. He's going to be sore coming into this game. You know, he was going to, you know, he's got to fly back to England, which, yeah, it's only Poland, but still time to rest. He's going to probably have Thursday off. He's back at training on Friday, and then we expect him to play a high-tempo game against Aston Villa at the weekend. So I'm going to go for quite a half-decent prediction. I think it's going to be a 2-0 against Aston Villa. I think that is my score prediction for that particular game. But, guys, let's have a look. What do you think your score prediction is going to be for this game? What do you think of my potential hope of a lineup will be? And is there anything you would like to change? Please hit me up in the comments down below. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you haven't done already, it would mean so much if you wouldn't mind subscribing and hitting that thumbs up button just down there. But guys, enjoy the football. I will speak to you after the weekend. Until next time, see you later. Bye-bye.